Hello all, this is David, aka Fairmere4731, bringing you another video on my channel, and in this one we're going to be doing a tutorial on the Finland map and getting newer players acquainted to this map. Now, a 4v4 match, you will have, of course, 4 players spawning, and this map is different from all the others in that 2 of the players will spawn and back to the others. And typically how this works is the first player is going to start on the top back. The second player will start on the back of the bottom of the hill. Then the third player will start at the top front, and the fourth finally will start at the bottom front. So in this you're going to see that there is on this is team 1 side, by the way, and you'll see that there is some strategic locations that you can start off with. Namely, you have woodland here that you can hide troops in. Also, you have woodland scattered over here on the top, and then also in the bottom you will have also more woodland to hide troops and to defend with. And you also have quite a bit of rocky terrain that you can use to your advantage. As you can see, there's going to be a choke point right here, and you can see that this actually provides another barrier. So right in this location right here you will have a choke point, and this is a very pivotal spot right here to hold. And then typically a player starting out on this player 1 side of the flank will push out and try to hold this location here. This is the part that you're going to fight, and when you spawn in, since you're 1 player's in front, 1 player's in back, you're going to have to pick a side with your teammate that's on this side of the map with you. You don't want to have your army spread out and fight this massive side of a field with 1 player in reserve. That's not going to work out. So what you're going to need to do is set your army up, and since I control the top, I'll just kind of give you an example of what I'm talking about so that there can be no mistaking. So if I took the flank, I would set my army up to prepare to take this flanking position over here, and then this player would take this side. So I would push up and take this. Now let me continue on with the bottom. Just wanted to kind of explain that where it gives a visual. You can see that this player on the bottom flank, again, this is a very pivotal spot right here. You want to control, it's a fight with the other side to control this open space right here. This is one of the more pivotal spots on the map. Now, as for the center bottom player, this player will try to hold this position, and you're going to have some key spots here. This woodland right here will be a key spot for you to hold and maintain. Also this clump of trees here, and of course to fall back to this line of trees if you get in trouble. You will also have to decide from your teammate from the top middle who's going to send a light unit in here to plug up this spot here. This is another choke point that you're going to need to put stakes with your light unit to make sure that no enemy cav can have easy access. Now that brings us to this spot right here. This is a very difficult spot, and I suggest no players especially newer players, send units into this location. This is called the Valley of Death, and this is the Valley of Death for a reason, because this player here in the bottom center and this player here in the center top can position troops in the trees to shoot at you as you come through, or they have troops up here or artillery up here to shoot down on you as you come into the valley. Likewise, for the other side, you definitely don't want to bring your troops in through this valley as well, but I'll do that side another video. Okay, so again, as you're taking this side, your advance should be only determined if you're bringing artillery after you've worn down your opponent. You do not want to advance into a woodland army without knowing that you have superior forces to be able to take them out. But your goal is, on this flank, to eventually secure this woodland from the opposing armies, because once you take this, the only place they can fall back to without taking tremendous losses is going to be this woodland. That gives up this empty spot here, so you will have secured a flank and be able to start wrapping. But to do that, you have to have troops, so you can't take this position with a small army after defeating this army and not have enough troops to spread. Otherwise, you're spreading yourself thin. They can punch you, surround you, punch a hole here and surround you, and you'll be overwhelmed here. So you have to have the troops to be able to take that flank after you have pushed them back. You can't take on and push up after you have taken the woodland. If you've lost most of your units, you need to hold the trees and stay put. Okay, so the bottom center player, your goal again is to hold this position, support the flank, and support the other mid player. That is going to be your key position. Now, if you're being advanced upon and the enemy pushes you, you push back and you can control this woodland here, and also you can hold. This is going to be your most dangerous spot and most pivotal part to hold on to hold the flanks, because you can send troops up here as well, but most of your troops will probably be concentrated on this part. Okay, if you have to fall back. If you're on the bottom and you have to fall back, again, you want to fall back between these choke points, and then at worst case scenario, you can see up here that there is quite a few more choke points. So this side can be very defensive for the bottom players, because you can see there is quite a bit of a hilly terrain for you to be able to hold, where advancing troops will be shooting the ground as your troops will be as well. So it can slow down the progress. So this position can be very defensible. Okay, so going to the top on team 1 side, if you are the player that's going to be taking the top mid, if you, no matter if you're in the front or the back, what you're going to want to do is push through this tree line and move up and hold the center of the top. And to do so, this, believe it or not, this small clump of trees is pretty important for you to hold on to, as well as making sure that no troops can come through this valley right here, through the Valley of Death, and be able to flank your player on the mid of the bottom, because if they're able to sneak a cav unit through, and they can come through the trees and wreak havoc upon your artillery and your lights. So very important to hold that position. Failing to do so can lead to a loss. Okay, So this is also another important clump of trees to hold on to as well, holding this center. If you get in trouble, you always have this very defensible position in this woodland here, and also this woodland back here is very defensible if you get pushed back. On the advance, in the mid, you want to take your time slowly, only advance into this woodland army if you have superior numbers, or if the opponent has very undefensible positioning. So what you're going to want to do is, once you've taken this woodland, again, the same as the bottom flank, you want to make sure that you are taking that position and only pushing forward into more combat if you have the troops to do so. Otherwise, you need to hold and let your allies help you, and you all the time need to make sure you're only advancing with your flank secured. You do not push up while this player sits still. This player will have to push somewhat with you to be able to secure your flank. Otherwise, you get double teamed by both players. If you're attacking this flank by yourself while this player sits back, you can see how you would be sticking your head out and letting your neck get chopped off once you get here, because they can easily flank you. So both players have to push at the same time. Luckily, not necessarily the case if you're talking about the two mid positions. You just need to make sure that they're not allowing the top mid or the bottom mid to support either way. That's the only responsibility there. Now, in the middle section here, I forgot to mention, on the advance, as you push in, you can see this part here, this hill, will provide some problems as you're pushing up. So you need to be prepared, because you won't be able to line your troops up right here as you're helping, but getting your men into this woodland as you advance is vitally important, and securing that woodland. And it is not a bad idea to put your lights on this hill if possible. Otherwise, that way you can shoot down over the tops of your heads of your men into the lines, but that's not always a possible situation due to artillery or other troops shooting into you, because this is a very exposed position. So only do that if the situation gives it to be the advantage. Then on the top flank position, you can, once you push up through the through the trees, you can see that this position here is going to be a very difficult position to hold, to advance upon if enemy troops are here, because you have the hill, you have to come over the crest of the hill, so you need to only make sure you're doing that with superior forces. You can easily defend right here, because once they come to the crest of the hill, you can shoot them up pretty easily. And you can do this by sometimes putting your lights behind your men and your lines in front, because your lights will shoot over the tops of your heads of your men in the right positions, because they are shooting up to the top of the hill. Now, as you make your advance up the hill, what a lot of players will do is they push their cav up to secure a position here. That way they can move their troops up freely. So you need to be cautious of enemy artillery fire coming in on you if you do that, because you will be within howitzer range, and if you're in this position, you will be taking fire from that. So Once you do advance into this position, you will want to secure this tree line here and hold that position and hold it firmly before you advance to the next tree line, because you'll be taking into the open field, and a lot of times the player will line their troops up on the crest of this hill here and shoot down into your men in the trees. And then right over, you can see that the hill gives a very nice place for your opposing armies to hide their men, so they can wait while their front lines take all the fire. Once they get weakened, they can roll them back and roll new fresh lines up, and that's something you need to be aware of. Once you do take this crest of the hill right here, you also need to be aware of this portion of the hill as well. Again, this is a pretty good sized slope, and there is a spot here that you can't send men through, right here and right here. Once you do secure this location, you can hold this tree line here, and in the back position of the corner of the map, this position here, and this the back player starting position on the corner, shooting in here is very tricky business, because the hills are very what's the word for it, are pretty much in your way. So taking on any enemy fire from here you will be able to be protective, but you will not be able to dish out any damage of your own. So okay, now again, this position here as your enemies fall back is a very defensible position, so be cautious on that. Again, here you can see all the different choke points on this map on the player 2 side that you'll need to advance through as you have secured positions. But that's basically the basics to Finland. So let me just briefly cover once again for Team 1 side. The flank player needs to push up, come into this area and drop stakes, a stake line from the red line up here. The player in the mid needs to also communicate with the other player in the mid to see who's going to push up and drop stakes here. The remaining lights will need to drop stakes anywhere in this location. As with the mid bottom player, again, they will need to find out who is going to drop stakes here, and the remaining lights can drop stakes in this area in here. As for the flank player, you can drop stakes wherever is practical. If it's at the top of the hill, if it's just below the crest of the hill, if it's in front of the tree line, if it's all the way up here, it just depends on the situation that presents itself for you. You do not want to lay stakes in trees because they are not effective. Okay, so I think that's a good start to the tutorial for Team 1 side on the basics of what you need to do in playing a Finland game, and I will have some more Finland tutorials with the Team 2 side, what you need to do on Team 2 side, and then I will also be covering a tutorial on the Finland rules, what they are typically for veteran players, and why they have those rules, and then also some other tutorials for best practices on Finland. And anyways, yeah, so I hope you like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks again, everyone, and once again, one kind of disclaimer is I don't claim to be the best player. I do claim to be decent, so this is meant to help newer players. You know, everybody has different style of playing. You know, this style might not match what your style is, but this is a basic guide to Finland for newer players. Thanks again, everyone.